Okay. And you know, Jerry and Robert, so many of these people are new here for the first time. Let's see how many people are here for the first time. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, really, it's just wonderful. So what have I been doing? Well, I am a professional photographer these days, and I'm kept very active with one of my biggest clients, which is New York Presbyterian Hospital. And I do all their events, from simple meetings to galas, benefits, and often have a wonderful time because they always have great stars at these, especially the big events. And one of the big ones I did just recently was photographing Tony Bennett, and that was really great, you know, just to see him on stage and then see him backstage. And I mean, he was my idol when I was a kid, and there he was performing as equally good today as ever. So I have a lot of joy doing that kind of work. And then also I do my own photography, you know, just wandering around Central Park in New York, the Botanical Gardens, and doing a lot of flower photography. I also just recently got involved again with the American Renaissance Theater in New York, which is a wonderful group of aspiring, many very wonderful writers, and they are there really to develop new plays, and that's been very exciting. And the other part that I do is travel, and the thing that I'm looking forward to next is my trip to, in October, to Greece. So yeah, right. And I'm even learning Greek. Kalimera, kalispikta, kalimikta, kalispera, kalimera. Some of those things. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I also know how to say efkarasto, parakalo. That's thank you and you're welcome. And the other thing is agapimu. You know what that means? My love. What's that? Oh, I have to learn that later. Anyway, that's the extent of what I'm doing these days. Where does this go from here, Jim?
Question is for Chris. The last episode of Dark Shadows that you ever appeared in is Gabriel Collins.
You got it.
And it looks to me like you get shot and you're standing there, and it really looks like you're flipping the bird to the camera. And I just want to know if that was an accidental thing or were you just being a punk?
I was not happy. I did not want to leave that show. I was very depressed. And I was having a big fight with Dan Curtis. You can read that in my comic books. So yes. No, I wouldn't flip the bird. I'm not totally insane. I was thinking that. I don't know. So, yeah, no, I don't know. I have no memory.
Incidentally, we saw your performance in King Lear, and I thought you were really, really great.
Gloucester. It was really Gloucester. It was great after I was blinded. You know why? Because you have no more fear of the audience. You're blind. You can't see anything. Always, always, always. Never, never. Thank you. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. You're the only one that ever saw it.
My husband, too.
Bless him. Thank you. Next question. Two.
This is for anyone who wants to answer. So often we hear about actors and actresses getting a big break or that big role that changes their careers. Was Dark Shadows for any of you that big break and that turning point in your life?
What about you, Robert?
Yeah, it was a turning point in my life, right downhill from that. No, seriously, it was a good thing. No, nothing monumental.
Anybody else? Unfortunately, we're handicapped on mics, it looks like.
It was my first job, and it was a lot of our first jobs, so I think it was a starting point more than a turning point. I think it's some of the veteran actors, the older ones, like Joan Bennett. For Joan, it was a real turning point.
Well, that's a good, yeah, I understand. Laura, were you going to say something?
For me, it was my first professional job, which I got the first week I was in New York. And the whole 5 years I worked on it, I thought, it's onward and upward from here. As soon as this is over, I'm going to go to California and become a movie star. And then, of course, it turned out to be my best role. So it's interesting how the world is. So I guess it was the turning point.
Next question, please.
It's first of all, Mr. Rodan, after hearing your voice on that Dark Shadows audio CD, crying out Barnabas, it's a great thrill to finally say hello to you. And Mr. Davis, about 30 years ago or so, maybe a little more than that, my family and I went on vacation to Williamsburg, Virginia. And there was a little bit of a fuss going on there. And people came over to us and asked my sister and I if we wanted to be in a Williamsburg travel log for Busch Gardens. And it turned out that you were in the center of the whole gathering, and I didn't realize it at the time. Until after about 10 takes, us walking through the entrance of Busch Gardens, it suddenly dawned on me, hey, that's one of the stars of one of my favorite shows over there. We never got the chance to meet, so I just wanted to say hello, finally, fellow co-worker.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
You know what, Roger? I've got a copy of that Busch Gardens thing for you. I found it on a tape.
Oh, good. That's yeah. I used to when Busch Gardens first opened in Williamsburg. I got to play all these characters. It was really wonderful and introduced the gardens. And I think I did it for 2 or 3 years. And I had a loyal ally with this advertising man in New York who liked me a lot. And so it was a very enjoyable experience to go. I got to go through that park before it opened. Every place in it and how they did it, and it was, I remember Phineas Fogg, I went up in a hot air balloon. That was one of the first commercials, and then I was Dr. Frankenstein in the you know, they would do all kinds of thematic things in these commercials. They were big time spots, and it was hardly the same going back to Williamsburg. This year it was raining, and truly, I'll never forget, Ben Murphy looked at me on the last day of the autograph signing, and he said, you know, gosh, now that I think about it, I would have been nicer to you had I realized that Smith & Jones was going to be the high point in my career. You know, that's all I remember from the deal the last. Anyway, thank you so much, Bob.
Next question, please.
Mr. Davis was talking about Smith & Jones. I was thinking, with Mr. Selby being on Falcon Crest and Mr. Garland being on the Academy West, you do shows like that, have these festivals with your fans that you go to. And I mean, Falcon Crest surely has many people. Do you go to a Falcon Crest fan thing and have thousands of people scream your character name? I mean, why not?
We only love you guys. We stay clear of the rest.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Stephanie from Spokane. And first, a special welcome back to Roger from being away for a while. And I have a question, or a comment at least, and I hope he responds to John Carlin. I recently was reading a biography of James Stewart, and who should I run into the last couple of pages was John Carlin. It told of an incident at a banquet, I think it was his wife Gloria, not yours, James Stewart's. And he told of a time when, at that banquet, John Carlin came up to James Stewart, and what did you do?
Who asked?
Yeah.
It was a reverse. He came up to me. But go ahead.
And what did you do?
Well, you read it, right? It was in the book? Well, tell us.
Well, he said that you kissed him right on the lips.
Actually, it was a soul kiss on the lips.
That's what he said.
And there were many movie stars, and he was only one of many that night. Now, wait a minute. That I'm only kidding about, but that thing in that book about Brooklyn, that's about Brooklyn. And did you read the other part about Brooklyn, what I said about Brooklyn in that book? The real Brooklyn, not the little fidgety guys that join the knothole gang and go to Ebbets Field. That's not Brooklyn.
Bensonhurst.
That's not, yeah, that is Brooklyn, by the way. Bensonhurst is okay, that's good. But anytime you get above the middle class in Brooklyn, it's not Brooklyn anymore, it's just any other place. You gotta be in the lower depths to really understand and know Brooklyn.